Question: do the angels know future things? Answer: the angels know some, not all, future things. They know those things which necessarily follow from natural causes, but the things which are merely accidental in the future are those necessary consequences of natural causes which by God's providence or otherwise may be changed, they do not know. Let us take example of the foretelling of a storm which an American paper appears to the unlearned to supernaturally predict. Now, an angel knows that a current of air is passing in the western regions. It knows all the laws whereby the atmosphere is guided. It knows at what speed it is traveling. It knows at what time, with a certain rate of motion, it would reach a given place. As a rule, it could predict of it that it would do so by a certain period. Men can do that much. Thus, to an extent, it can tell future things. But unforeseen causes may arise and interfere, and then it would not be infallible in its judgment. Suppose a person was sick, one of those mentioned in the Bible, and sick unto death. An angel, from its superior human medical skill, would predict its death. But in the meantime, our blessed Lord is entreated. He enters, and the disease flies at his approach. Then the angel would be mistaken in his calculation. So speaks St. Thomas. But Suarez and others hold that the angels know what will eventually happen, provided these things depend upon necessary causes. This will be better understood by the following. Question: can they know future things not arising from necessary causes? Answer: no. For the knowledge of future things that depend on free will for their coming into being is ever set down at the special mark of the divinity. Quote, "Tell what shall happen in the future, and we will know that ye are gods." Isaiah chapter 41, verse 23. "I am God, and there is no one like me, telling from the beginning the latest thing to happen, and from the commencement the things that have not yet begun to be." End quote. Isaiah chapter 49, verse 9. St. Hilary says, "What is so peculiar to God as the knowledge of the future?" St. Hilary, "To no one else but to one, and that one God, does it belong to know the future." Tertullian, "The truth of the divination I hold to be the distinct testimony of the divinity." This is important, as it leads us to understand what is the knowledge of the demons, and whether they can foretell future things, which did not happen by fixed laws, as, for instance, when the oracle was asked, quote, "Shall Pyrrhus conquer the Romans?" End quote. The oracle did not know. The answer it gave was ambiguous. It made reply, quote, "The Romans, Pyrrhus shall conquer," end quote, which might mean that Pyrrhus would conquer the Romans, or the Romans would conquer Pyrrhus. Hence Cicero says, quote, "Their divinations were partly false, partly true," end quote, as may happen to anyone, oftener still ambiguous so as to square with any event, and therefore their responses were generally despised by the more learned and keener-minded of the heathens, as Origen and Eusebius testify. The Roman general had little confidence in the sacred chickens. On one occasion, when before a battle they refused to take their food, he flung them into the sea, without the exclamation, quote, "If they do not eat, let them drink," end quote. This, however, lost him the battle, for the soldiers, thinking it a bad omen, got so disheartened that they easily yielded to the enemy. Question: can the angels know for a certainty free acts of the intellect and the will either in other angels or in man? Answer: no. Not without the consent of the others. God alone can do so. Scripture says, quote, "God searches all hearts, and understands all the thoughts of the mind. Thou alone, O Lord, knowest the heart of man." End quote. Quote, "Wicked and inscrutable is the heart of all. Who shall understand it? I, the Lord, searching the hearts and reins." End quote. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 17. St. Hilary, quote, "The thoughts of the heart it is not ours to know, but his, of whom it is written, God searching the reins and heart." End quote. St. Ambrose, when the Lord wishes to save men, he showed him that he was God by his knowledge of hidden things. St. Chrysostom, but that you may know it belongs to God alone to know the secrets of hearts. Hear what the prophet says, Thou alone knowest hearts. End quote. This is the feeling that God's own hand has implanted in our minds, namely, that our thoughts should not be read by every passer-by, but only by those we wish, and according as we ourselves would reveal them. We would even conceal them, if possible, from God. From this it follows that the devil, when he tempts us, can only guess at what is going on in our minds. He cannot know for certain, except from our own outward manifestations, how we receive his suggestions, and whether we yield to them or not.